Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll start in about a minute, just to let a few others trickle in. All right, why don't we get started? Well, again, good afternoon, happy Thursday to everyone who's joined. Thank you again. This is our second webinar for Epilog this year, and also for our current fundraise. I'm excited to once again introduce Michael Mojaver, CEO of Epilog. Michael continues to impress me when I hear him talk about this stuff, and I always learn something new. By way of introduction, my name is Kevin Morris. I'm an advisor to the company, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Couple things. So we will be offering Q&A at the end of the webinar. So there is a button on the bottom right of your screen that says questions. Feel free to put questions there throughout the webinar, and we'll get to them at the end. One of the main reasons we are doing the webinar is, of course, to update our community and audience about Epilog, and specifically Sidecar, which was just introduced publicly to the market recently and for purchase. So we're going to be talking through that. And again, as a reminder, the company does have an investment round live right now on Start Engine, which can be visited. You can visit startengine.com/epilog, EPILOG, and we'll share more about the fundraise towards the end. So with that, Michael, I'm going to hand the mic over to you, and I'm excited to hear what you have to share with us today.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm Michael Mojaver, CEO of Epilog. This is a shorter webinar compared to the last one. We're just going to cover the Tesla Autopilot versus Sidecar. They're really comparable systems, and I'm going to show you some tests that we did on this. So the first thing that I'm going to discuss is basically the test conditions. The second part will cover the Tesla Autopilot. Third part will cover the Epilog Sidecar and the same test conditions. And then we'll do a comparison between the two. And then there's a short summary at the end. So for this particular test, and we run this test pretty often, is basically a stretch between San Jose and San Francisco airports. It's roughly about 40 miles, and depending on traffic, it could take an hour or 40 minutes. This is a preview, sort of like a simulation of how this drive looks like. So Kevin, if you can play the first video, please.
Yep, you got it.
So you can sort of see in this simulation what the traffic looks like. So on this same route, basically we drove both vehicles, and so this is the first result is the Tesla Autopilot first. So the setup is pretty much the same. We have the Tesla has 3 cameras looking forward. We have one which basically does as well as the 3, and then one major difference is that on the interior, the Tesla doesn't have it has a camera built in. You see it right here, but it's not for the purpose of driver monitoring. It's just basically for occupancy detection if you left a child or a dog in the car. So pretty comparable hardware from the point of view of the forward vision. So now we can play the second video. So this is, again, on the 101, a stretch of the freeway, a couple of different scenarios. And what you can see, sort of like this display system that Tesla has, it's just really like for informational purposes. One of the things that I've noticed actually is that is not very accurate. So we use now generative AI. So the vehicles that you see, we don't actually look for vehicles or people. Basically, the system just learns to drive on its own. So, we could have had a display like this in the Sidecar as well, but we might add it in the future. But it's just really like for informational purposes. It doesn't actually really represent. So now we're going to cover the Sidecar in the same test conditions. I did sort of have these cars side by side just for comparison. You can see that they're pretty similar vehicles, like intended for the compact SUV market. Again, our forward vision is just a single camera looking forward. And okay, now we can play the last video. So here we're starting out with some driving on the road, and this is like in the city with it's the same thing actually between both the Autopilot and Sidecar allow using it in the city as well. So it's at your own discretion. We do have stop sign and also stop sign detection, but it's not actually active right now. So it's something that we're planning to add in the future. So you basically have to just, stop at when you see a stop sign or a traffic sign. So getting on and off the freeway, it's basically really straightforward. One of the important differences between Sidecar and Autopilot is lane changes. So when you enter a lane with Sidecar, basically the system is cooperating with you. You signal, and then you enter the lane, and then the vehicle locks into the new lane, sort of like following the railroad track. With Tesla, you would have to basically disable the system to make a lane change. This is on the basic. I do want to emphasize this is the basic Autopilot. So for the lane change support and enhanced Autopilot, you pay $6,000 extra, and then the full self-driving when it's available is going to be another $6,000, so $12,000 for the full self-driving, which is not available yet. So on the base system, I feel like the Sidecar handles lane changes much more smoothly than Autopilot does. So here's a side-by-side comparison of the two systems. Basically, same test conditions, same type of traffic. So normal traffic, I sort of use like a gradient system, and this is totally subjective, but back to back, the same road, both vehicles on the same day. My impression is that handling normal traffic, there's basically no difference between Autopilot and Sidecar. The same thing when traffic is heavy is almost identical behavior. With the lane changes, like I mentioned, I'm talking about the basic Autopilot, not the enhanced or the self-driving, the FSD. I feel like Sidecar handles lane changes much better. You basically point, you use your arrow to where you want to go and point the car to the other lane, and it just locks into the new lane. What Autopilot does, you basically have to disengage the system, and if you don't, it gets quite angry at you. So it's almost like a struggle to get control back if you're trying to do a lane change without disabling it. Handling curves, I think that so really sharp curves. This is not like on the 101, for example, but if you exit the freeway or like you're at a point where the freeway has going through an on-ramp onto another freeway and there's sharp curves, I feel like the Autopilot definitely handles it better. It's still not perfect, but it's better than Sidecar. That's a place where we need to improve Sidecar in the future. Merging with traffic, I felt that Sidecar Autopilot did a better job, slightly better job, sort of like incoming traffic, for example, onto the freeway. And then just driving around town is pretty, at slower speeds, they're basically identical. So sort of like if you, and this is like completely coincidence, I guess, they average out to the same grade. Neither one of them is perfect, but they're essentially both doing the same job. So then the other, the main advantage of Sidecar is the cost, obviously. So if you bought a RAV4, so this is like, the compact SUV, you could also compare other vehicles that would be supporting to the Model Y, which is what we used for this comparison. So the RAV4, as we tested it, is a $35,000 car. It's a hybrid system. Gets about 40 miles per gallon. The Model Y, well, it starts at about 50,000. This is the configuration that we tested with dual motor and extended range. It's a little bit quicker than the RAV4, faster acceleration, but generally speaking, is very similar in terms of utility. So you started at $50,000, and then there's a discount from Tesla. This is, you can price it yourself on either car, on either the Tesla or the Toyota dealers, with a 310-mile range. And then after, I think it's a $7,500 discount, you'll end up at about, I believe it's 40,000. I don't actually have the number here. I'm sorry, 45,000. So if you look at the sort of like the end cost of a Model Y versus a RAV4, again, comparable vehicles, sport utility vehicles, you're paying about $10,000 more for a Model Y. The operation cost, and I calculated this based on our electricity costs in the Bay Area, which is ends up sort of like about $9 for a 100-mile trip, and for fuel on a hybrid system, 40 miles a gallon at $4.50 a gallon, it's about the same. So basically, same operating costs between the two vehicles, and you're paying $44,000 more. Assuming that you already have a RAV4, which is sort of like the basic assumption of a Sidecar, is that you already own the vehicle. So if you're really interested in having driver assistance, then the choice is buy a Tesla. And I'll be actually testing other brands too, but it's from a cost point of view is pretty similar. One of the things that you might argue, well, if you're driving like a Tesla, then it's a electric car and we're saving the environment. I'm a physicist by training, and we see this all the time. So actually 73% of the world electricity is coming from fossil fuels. If you live in China, 61% of electricity is coming from coal. So there's no benefit really, like unless you have a large solar panel on your house and you're directly charging your car, there's basically no environmental benefit to electric car. So as a summary, Sidecar is effectively the same functionality as Autopilot in the most typical application, which is commuting, typical commute in a large city, and also long road trips. I think we did an update on a recent trip that we did that was 1,000 miles, and 95% of it was done with Sidecar. any situation like that, I would say there's almost no difference between a full self-driving car when it becomes available, if it becomes available from Tesla, and just driver assistance, either from Tesla or from us. So commuting back and forth to work, long road trips, were almost as effective as anything else that might become available. Obviously, like I don't know if you've driven an electric car or you own one, there's definitely sort of like this enjoyment factor is quiet and it has lots of torque, and for those reasons, actually, it lends itself better to self-driving. It's more responsive, moves quicker, it steers quicker, just because electric cars are optimized, or they had self-driving in mind. Maybe future ICE cars will be the same, but for the time being, I do notice that the electric cars are a bit more responsive. Again, you wouldn't notice that on a commute, on a road trip, more so when you're doing full self-driving. And from the economic point of view, I mean, that's really the point of the Sidecar, is that you're able to take advantage of your existing car if you already have it, and just spend $1,000 and you have self-driving. And again, assuming that for the type of driving or usage that you have, this would be beneficial to you. Thanks for attending, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it now.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. That was fun to see some of the stuff live. I think next webinar, we need to have somebody film you in the car on the 101 live. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, actually, we were planning to have a live demo during this webinar, but unfortunately, it's been raining today, so we'll have to do that on the next drive. But we were planning to have a live demo of Sidecar, where we just basically stream the drive to the webinar in a future opportunity.
Great. Well, all right, so let's turn to some questions. Just a reminder, anybody can ask a question. You select the bottom right part of your screen, and we will get to as many as possible. Let's start with a couple here. So the first one I have is, Michael, you mentioned that for traffic merging, you sort of gave Sidecar B, Tesla's Autopilot an A, which was, in general, I think we all agree the Sidecar comes out sort of equal to the Tesla, but at a much more affordable price point. But anyways, going back to traffic merging, is there anything that you guys are working on to sort of enhance that feature of Sidecar, to sort of give Sidecar a leg up on Tesla?
I think actually, well, there's a couple of things on that. So this particular Model Y is vision only. Is just using cameras basically to navigate. They dropped, I believe they dropped the radar on the Model Y. I could be wrong. Somebody knows, please comment. But so vision only. The advantage of the Tesla is that it has the side-looking cameras, and so that's not standard on the RAV4 that we've tested with, and I think it will be standard in the future cars. And so the Tesla can essentially look to the side, so when traffic is merging in, it's aware of cars that are like to your right, or I guess to your left also, depending on where the traffic is coming from. So that's definitely an advantage. So this was sort of a forced test. I had a clip. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to upload that, but it's sort of just an edge that the Tesla has, but they both behave similarly. So with the radar, it's sort of a narrower beam, and so the vehicle mostly is looking forward. So that's the advantage Tesla has. Both of them, you basically have to be aware of merging traffic and be ready to take over. In fact, I did have some examples. I sort of forced a Tesla into a lane when there was a lot of traffic merging, and performs less than perfect, but slightly better than Sidecar.
Great, thank you. Next question is, how is Sidecar being marketed direct to consumer given the limited automobile types with which it is compatible?
So I think we can support 25 different different models, maybe 5 or 6 different brands. We haven't sort of expanded, within the Toyota line, basically. Uh, every Lexus, every Toyota, there's probably maybe 50 models even within the Toyota lines and Lexus lines that are essentially directly supportable now. And we just don't have like the bandwidth resources to custom design the enclosure for each vehicle. So the support is already there, but we just don't have sort of like the mechanical support to put these into the different brands. And between the 3 or 4 different models that we support right now, there's about 1 million cars already on the road. And somebody asked in the previous question, it's not just in the US, you can use Sidecar anywhere in the world, depending on the road conditions. And so I think there's a pretty big opportunity to cover a lot of different models and different vehicles. We just haven't had the opportunity to do that yet.
Great, thank you. Next question is, how close is Epilog to going public?
I think this, I always think of that sort of something that I heard from on Wall Street. There's always like a ray of opportunity. There's a ray of sunshine for going public, and that ray of sunshine is sort of random. It's just the market conditions, and there's some prerequisites on the company side to go public, and the main one is having revenues. All the companies that go public before they're on a revenue ramp risk essentially like losing their stock value. So I think like the main the main thing we can do on our end is basically ramp up the revenue, or what we're working on. And then when we are on a revenue ramp, and I think that would probably take a year, assuming that the market is ready, or we don't know, it could be a fantastic market or not, or then there's opportunity to actually do a public offering. But that was always our intention, and it just has to be lined up. All the things have to be lined up.
Great, thank you. Next question is, and I think we've sort of, let's see here. I want to make sure. Okay, next question is, with the launch of Sidecar, have any new discussions with other car manufacturers occurred?
We did actually talk to Honda recently, and it's sort of like still open. We did approach Honda, so that's, I would say, probably this year we'll be approaching more companies.
Great. Thank you. Next question. Are there any other competitors besides Tesla that you view?
And within this driver assistance, every major manufacturer is planning to do that. And some, obviously this already sort of like a lane keep assist, which is not really like at the same level as what Tesla or Sidecar does on pretty much like all the different manufacturers. So competition is mainly like from new cars. I'm planning to do like another webinar like this, maybe comparing to the Mercedes electric car, which has advanced. It's sort of like autopilot capability, and then also from well, it's mostly luxury brands. So Lexus has a system, and so we'll be comparing to them. But with all those options, basically, you're talking about like a $50,000 to $100,000 price tag. And so what we're basically offering with Sidecar is the opportunity for not buying any car. You just turn your existing Toyota or a Subaru or Honda into a self-driving or at least driver-assisted vehicle. I wish I could share this experience with you, like in person. Hopefully, like in the next webinar, we'll have like a live demonstration of it. But I compared more to like manual transmissions versus automatic transmission. For those of you who've had an opportunity to use both, once you've been introduced to automatic transmission, you'll never go back to manual because it's just extra work. This is like, as a human, you shouldn't be going through this labor of changing gears. So that's what Sidecar does for steering, and what Autopilot does. So you don't have to steer, and that's a really major improvement to driving.
Great. Next question. Are there other streams of revenue in store for Epilog that you're looking at beyond just Sidecar?
Well, we have a couple other products in the works, and the main issue that we had, sort of like with getting to revenues, was actually building product. So prior to COVID, there was this just-in-time model, which is you order components and then you build in batches as you ramp up your production, your revenue. And so we could only sort of like with the resources that we had, cover only one product. But we have two other products, and our main goal right now is to reach revenue on these products that we have already in the pipeline. Almost every other opportunity, like let's say if you did a contract with a car company to do something custom for them, is basically going to shift our resources into another area. So it's a trade-off. If we get a contract, or like say a government contract is another example. I know some of the companies on Start Engine have government contracts. Well, the government doesn't just give you money; they expect you to do something. So if you put your resources into a government contract, then you're doing that, and then you're that much further away from revenue on a revenue ramp. So for us, the priority is ramping up on the products. And so Sidecar is the first one, and then we have two other ones, and it takes time, and it's more difficult now because of just logistics on how you make products, how you get components. It really, really changed during the COVID. So I think it'll be slow in the beginning, but like I guess our worst fear is that if we got 1,000 orders right now, how would we deliver it? You just can't really ramp that quickly. If you sign up, say, with a distributor like one of the automotive retail distributors, and I've been in that situation before, where they just order 5,000 units, for example, to put on the shelves at different locations, or we would just have a really hard time like keeping up. So it's just like a slow process to ramp up production, make sure everything is solid, and then that's our plan.
Great. Next question. How many units of Sidecar per year will it take to break even? So, we contract out everything. So like the way you're organized, we have very low overhead. So breaking even is not really hard to do once we're in production and we're ramping up. But I think like what really happens is that now you have to plan for larger builds. So like say if you want to build 5,000 units next, or
another 1,000 units. So if you have to dedicate a lot of cash into that, so that's been our challenge. I think breaking even. So like the modeling work that we show is like 2 years out when we're turning the corner. But in the meantime, you have to invest quite a bit into inventory and also some more engineering.
Great. Next question
I just
is.
want to add. I just want to add one thing. It took Tesla like 10 years to break even. But and they're multi-trillion-dollar company now. So actually, like revenues or even breaking even is not necessarily as important as how quickly you're ramping up. So if we're able to get on a ramp, and there's going to be marketing involved, and there's like overcoming resistance as a new product. Well, once we get on a ramp, I think that's really like the most important metric. Like, not so much that we're revenue positive or that's just normally not how technology companies work. They're usually upside down, and then as you ramp, then you have other opportunities.
Great. Next question. What's the bottleneck for accelerating and making something meaningful happen in the business? More staff, more investment? What's holding us back?
Well, there's a couple of things. I would say definitely we need more investment. So between sort of like last year, we just kind of focused on getting Sidecar ready. So we didn't do really like a whole lot of fundraising or anything else, and just focus on getting Sidecar ready for market. So now this year is basically just focusing on selling more sidecars and building more sidecars, and so we will need more investment to get that sort of off the ground. And then from an R&D point of view, I'd say like we're sort of like on the tail end of all three products. So like within a year, essentially all these products should be just turning into revenue. So I think our biggest challenge is just financing the builds that we have to do, and then the marketing to get the word out, to get the product sold.
Next question. Have you considered direct-to-dealership marketing to have Sidecar as an option at point of sale to get wider adoption more quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've had, I mentioned in the previous webinar, we had some interest from Pep Boys to, to sell the product. Just imagine like if they order like 1,000 or two of these, then we would be in a position. Normally, like the way it works is that big company like that is going to shift the burden of the inventory to you. So they want 90-day terms, and say if you ship like 2,000 sidecars for a couple $1 million, well, you have to essentially like come up with those funds to build the inventory, and then you wait 90 days or longer. And the bigger the distributor is, the more leverage they have on you. So yeah, I mean, I think we'll be ready for that. Hopefully we'll be ready like maybe in the second half, sometime maybe towards the end of the year. But right now, you just want to take baby steps, get Sidecar into like sell hundreds, and then maybe a few hundreds, and then work on distribution, which is like, larger financial commitments on our side, and just getting the logistics in place to deliver on this.
Great. Next question. Other than existing patents, what is the competitive advantage that Sidecar has over similar products?
Well, it's just basically cost. So we've managed to, or bill of material on this Sidecar is right now about 500, and we could probably reduce it to half that once we're in volume. And this, I don't think there's anybody on the market that can compete with that. So it's sort of like the feature set and the cost. And yeah, other companies might be able to duplicate that, but will take them a year or two, and then by then we'll be on to the next version or the next cost reduction or next feature set.
Great. Let's see here. Question: how much does Sidecar cost? Does it come with video viewing as well? If a car already has a camera built in on the middle top of the windshield, how does this work?
So we basically bypass the cameras already built into the car. So that's sort of like the jump system that's already in the car that kind of can barely like do the lane keep assist. We just bypass it altogether, so it's no longer being used. The cost of the sidecar is right now is MSRP of $1,000, and we sort of like offer like a discount right now for early adopters for like we call it the Founders Edition. So I think it's priced at $750 or $650, and then I think like longer term, maybe next year we could have it priced maybe under $500.
Great. Last few questions we'll take. Next one, what is the timeline and game plan for the rest of 2024? For example, expansion of available models, OEM targets, next level of funding, etc.
So for the second quarter that we're already in right now, we're mainly focusing on just selling like a few hundred, maybe 100 sidecars in like Q2. And that's just baby steps to make sure like we have the support in place and get feet still sort of like it's not set in stone, like on enclosures, essentially like that we have to do injection moldings, and there's a bunch of things that you have to finalize. So once we're done, like we have those 3 or 4 models that we currently support really solid, and we're having good feedback from the customer base, then we essentially go to the next level, which would be like in third quarter, maybe ramping up to 500 units. And I think like if we can sell 1,000 units like in the second half, I don't know when that will happen. Maybe if it's really hard to predict. So like one of our most worst nightmares is like if you got a sort of like an overwhelming number of orders, how would we support that, and how do we get into get the production started for the next batch? But somewhere in the second half, if we can sell like 1,000 units, I'd be really happy. I think that's like a good pace for the release of the product. So if you're sort of there like in at the end of second quarter, where we feel good about the existing models that we're supporting, then maybe we'll expand the Toyota line, or maybe we'll cross over into Honda, so depending also like on the feedback that we get from customers.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. That completes our webinar. We appreciate all the questions and answers. Michael, thank you again for taking the time to share the wonders of Sidecar with us. For our group out there, as a reminder, you can currently invest into Epilog at www.startengine.com/Epilog. You can also purchase Sidecar. You can visit drivesidecar.com. That's one word together, no spaces. And you can purchase Sidecar now and look out for additional models and makes to be available in the future. Michael, any closing thoughts before we wrap things up?
No, that's it. Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending the webinar. And like I said before, we're planning to have other webinars like pretty frequently, and you're welcome to tune in on the next ones. And we really enjoy having you here.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thank you.